Hey guys, this is Red and Blue. We are back with the Act 2 of the Parisian Derby, PSG versus Paris FC, this time in the Coupe de France. We're back in the Parc des Princes, we're back in France after a little trip to Kuwait, middle of the week. And so, yes, this time in the Coupe de France. I think not a lot of enthusiasm around this game, if I'm honest. I think it's been pretty quiet. A lot of focus on contract discussions and Dembele and Luis Enrique and fake news on Twitter and so on. But let's talk about this game because it's a Coupe de France, so it's always got a special favor. It's a Parisian derby, so that's always special as well, and we're not used to that. So let's kind of briefly talk about this and what to expect later on today. So PSG PFC, we played them obviously in the league a little bit more than a week ago. So it's very, very fresh. We're used to each other. We've seen each other. And now we're playing each other in the cup. And I don't know, but yeah, there doesn't seem to be a lot of appetite or interest for this one. I think everyone is kind of, I would say, taking a PSG win as a bit of a foregone conclusion. And at the same time, I don't know, I'm feeling confident and I kind of buy into a PSG win, obviously. But I don't think it's going to be that easy. I don't think it's going to be that easy when, we took off and went to Kuwait middle of the game to play a relatively high intensity game versus Marseille. When, PFC didn't have anything, obviously, so they've had the full week to rest and prep for this. It's not going to be so easy when we're looking at probably a lot of rotation in the starting 11. And some of the usual starters going on the bench for a little bit. And honestly, that first game against Paris FC, ultimately we won it, and we won it in a pretty clear and controlling manner, but we still only won it 2-1. So I don't know, it's kind of, it's got a little bit of the makings of what could be not quite a trap for us, because it's a first division team. We know them, we've seen them, so we kind of know what we're stepping into. But I don't quite get why it seems like everyone is so convinced it's going to be easy. So I think in terms of laying out those arguments, let's be clear. I think what we've seen in the league game is that there's a huge difference in terms of level, and that PSG was 2, 3, 4 levels above, and I think even PFC players, to their credit, came out and said that after the game. They also played a very, very defensive game and didn't really create that much offensively. And obviously, in a cup game, that's going to be completely different. And so, yeah, and ultimately, PSG, to their credit, I think we always take cup games very seriously, especially the ones where we go in as prohibitive favorites. We kind of always make sure to do the job. So I'm kind of hoping that's going to be the case here. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not super worried about it either, because I do think we've got what we need to beat them. But it's a cup game. Anything can happen. It's we call it the magic of the cup. So we'll have to see. We're going to have to be serious. They're going to be coming in with not quite their starting 11, because they still have some players in the African Cup of Nations. There's talk about them playing their Algerian maestro Kebal, who's just he just got kicked out of the African Cup of Nations yesterday, day before. So he's really fresh off of that, and he's back with Paris FC. I think more likely that he's going to start as a sub and maybe come on the pitch later on, but he's going to be part of that game, and so that's going to make a difference versus the PFC team that we played a week ago, which was missing pretty much all of its starting attackers. And yeah, beyond that, we can expect them to come back at us with 5 at the back, the 5-4-1 that they did in the league. probably committing a little bit more to whatever opportunities they can get to counter and break away in transition. I think that's going to be their best hope. We're going to be playing a rotated team in defense as well. So there might be more opportunities for them in terms of set pieces, in terms of, just like little bits and bolts that you don't necessarily get when you're playing against like Pacho and Marquinhos and the full defense, the European champion, world champion, intercontinental champion defense. so we'll have to be pretty careful there. I think even in midfield we're going to be rotating. In attack we're going to be rotating a lot. It looks like we're going to go back to Kvara Barcola, with Ramos being the third of that lineup. So obviously it's a very strong attack. Obviously it should be way more than enough to get rid of PFC. But who knows? It's a cup game, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll have to do the job. I think Kvara against Marseille did quite well. I think he played a good game. I think he was missing a little bit in terms of the last touch, the last pass, the last shot, and really making those better. So hopefully that's something that he can improve on against Paris FC. Barcola would be back in the starting 11, I think, for a cup game where by nature there's going to be more space and more opportunities to take runs at the defense. I think his speed and provocation and dribbling are really attributes that make him extremely valuable in a game like this. And worst comes to worst, like you can imagine like Doué and Dembélé coming off the bench at the 60th, 70th minute just to seal the deal, or really like knock them down when they start getting really tired. So that's always good options to have. And then Gonzalo Ramos, I've been doing a bit of thinking on Gonzalo Ramos. Obviously, like he scores that amazing goal against Marseille, and so we go back to that debate of Gonzalo Ramos, the super sub, and he scores when he's a substitute and not when he starts a game. Obviously, I think like the reality of it is a bit more complex than that, and it's not just like being a substitute versus being a starter. I heard an analysis which really landed with me, and like someone was saying, it's not because he's a substitute or a starter. It's just that at the beginning of the games, the wingers aren't as likely to give him the right pass that's going to work for him. And if you think of a Kvara, a Barcola, a Doué, even a Dembélé, like at the beginning of the game, they might try to just like dribble, cut back inside, and go their own way. They're like also at the beginning of the game, obviously, we're more likely to have opposition defense be more tight, be more like solid in terms of closing down spaces. And so that also explains why Ramos might not get good opportunities for him early on in games versus later in the game, where late in the game against Marseille, Barcola doesn't kid around. He gets the ball like behind the defense. He doesn't try to take it down and make a run. He passes it straight away, and all of a sudden, the opportunity converts. And I think early on in the game, maybe those guys, especially we've seen that of Barcola, of Kvara, even of Doué and Dembélé at some point, that once they get like so much chatter in the media and among the fans in terms of their goal scoring. I think all of them, it's always a conversation like, oh, Barcola is so inefficient in front of goal. Oh, like Dembélé, like he's really a striker and like he's not going to do as well as last season. Doué tries to do it all himself, and it's like all of those things as conversations. And so I think for those players, like they must like want to. Every football player wants to score, obviously, and so like they're not going to be excluded, but they must have that little extra motivation of like, I wish I can just shut their mouths, like I'm gonna score, and like so this way people will stop talking, and just like stay quiet about me. And yeah, like I think maybe it detracts a little bit in terms of making the right decisions and playing the football that needs to be played, which is still a work in progress at this point. So that could be a thing, and I think in a cup game, maybe like it's a better environment by nature for Gonzalo Ramos, because in a cup game, like I said, there's going to be a little bit more space. There's going to be clearly like less flexibility to just be waiting for the goal. It's like in a league game, like, yeah, sure, you're 0-0 at halftime at the 60th minute, like not the end of the world. Obviously you want to be in front, but at the end of days, like if you get the draw, or like even if you get the defeat at the end, a team like PSG, we care, but we don't really care that much in a way, because we know that we can make up points later. It's not the end of the world, and like, yeah, so there's no particular drama in not like killing the game up front. When in a cup game, it's in or out. So like there's no draw, there's no make up points later. So in that context, I think wingers might have less flexibility in their head to just like try to play cute and try to play for themselves. So we'll see. It's a kind of a long shot analysis, but I think it's relatively interesting. And yeah, I think like in a game like this for Ramos, with that little bit of confidence of having scored that last minute goal against Marseille, yeah, something can happen. And once again, with Ramos, we've been there before, time and time again. We've been in that same situation of him scoring a winning goal, and we think like, oh, like now he's gonna be good for it, and it doesn't happen. So we'll see. I'm always gonna be optimistic with PSG, but yeah, it could go either way. Let's be honest. So we'll have to see tomorrow. So line of attack, like I said, Kvara, Ramos, Barcola. In midfield, not quite sure, but what I've seen would be Vitinha, Joao Neves, and Mayulu playing that third spot instead of Fabian Ruiz. I mean, Kane is injured, Engine 2 is injured, Warren Zaire-Emery has got to play the Hakimi spot, so there's not a ton of flexibility in terms of who do we play and how do we play. So it feels about right, honestly. Like it feels like, yeah, that might be like the way we go into it. We could imagine a world where Doué actually takes that spot of Fabian Ruiz instead of Mayulu. I'd rather Doué sit on the bench, if I'm honest, and like we see at the 60th minute if we need him, at the 70th minute if we need him, but he can get a bit of a rest. After this game, we've got Lille, and then after that, we've got Champions League. So games are going to start coming in thick and strong. So yeah. So Mayulu, Vitinha, Joao Neves kind of makes sense. I wish we could rotate Vitinha and Joao Neves a bit more. Vitinha in particular. We need transfers. Luis Campos, like, get going. We need transfers in midfield. I've said it, like, we need more people. And then in defense, so Zaire Emery on the right, that's a must. Nuno Mendes on the left, that's also going to be a must because Hernandez is actually sick. So we don't have our substitute left back. And then the middle, though, it looks like Zabarni and Beraldo in defense, which, we'll have to see what goes. Obviously, like I said, PFC wasn't super dangerous for us offensively in the games that we played in the league. And ultimately, like, I mean, I've been a defender of Beraldo. I know his flaws and I accept them, but like, I think Beraldo and Zabarni actually complement each other like relatively well. I think Beraldo, when he plays in the middle, it's typically better than when he's on the side. I'm not saying it's always great, but like, I think at this level, like, I feel relatively okay with it. And yeah, if we can save Pacho a little bit, I'm all for that as well. He's going to have bigger games to play. So yeah. And then Chevalier in goal since Safonov is still injured. There was a question in the Luis Enrique press conference about, like, are we going to see Renato Marin for the second time? Could be. It's not completely impossible. I think, like, I still think, like, Chevalier probably keeps on playing, especially after turning in a good performance against Marseille. maybe they'll want him to keep the rhythm, keep playing, and see what he makes of it. So that's essentially what we're gearing up for against Paris FC. Must win game because it's a cup game, so we don't really have a choice, and that's going to be the way it is. In terms of prediction, it's a tough one, honestly. Like I said, yeah, I think a 2-0 Paris, something in between, honestly, even a 1-0. Yeah, more or less okay with that. Let's just finish it in 90 minutes. Let's not go through extra time. Let's not play the extra minutes. Let's definitely not go through penalties again. Let's just do a job. I don't care if it's 1-0, honestly, with a rotated squad. I'm more than happy with that. 2-0 to whatever it might be, honestly. Just I'll take the win. I think it's going to be relatively low scoring because they're not that dangerous and because we're rotating. And we're coming back from Kuwait as well, and we've got other things on our mind. So we'll see. I want to qualify. I want the win. That's what I'm asking for. So anyway, this is what I had for you guys on this second PSG PFC game. The revenge of the Paris Derby. So the second one of the season, we'll have a third in the league again in May. But so for now, let me know. First, drop a like on the video if you've made it this far. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Hit the bell to get notified of future videos. And let me know your prediction in the comment. What score do you think we're gonna get on this one? And are we gonna get the win? And obviously, Paris SG versus Paris FC in the Parc des Princes. It's never been said better. Ici c'est Paris!